And welcome to the online teaching conference. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the various techniques in terms of how to create an online course. I took a sabbatical a couple years ago, and during the sabbatical, my charge was to create an online course. We had no counseling online courses at Cerritos College at the time. Many individuals feel as though online counseling is touchy-feely. How can we do this online? And there is a way. There is a way to connect with the students. There's a way to basically have that one-on-one sense with the student teaching online, especially with a counseling course online. Okay. As we all are aware, online classes are expanding across disciplines. The anywhere approach to learning, anytime, students are not having to pay close to $5 per gallon to drive to campus. For some with families and children and work schedules, it's just more convenient. So as we noticed, online is becoming, we're offering a whole lot more online courses nowadays across disciplines. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the PowerPoint presentation. Okay. So in terms of developing a course, what I have found through reading literature and through actually putting this through practice is you need a clear and concise syllabus. It must be clear. Online courses, believe it or not, I've taught face-to-face as well, and they require a lot of time. And so you want to alleviate the students having to ask you questions regarding the syllabus. So basically you want to make it clear and concise. Students must be able to access the course information easily. Now, I'm not sure what course management system you use, but we use Telenet. And on Telenet, we make sure that our students, that we have our resources in one area, the syllabus in one area, and so forth. So you want to make sure that it's clear and concise. Because for some students taking the online courses, this may be their first online course. And so you want to make sure that all the information is readily available for the students. And again, that means designing the course with clarity and organization. Okay. For the course assignment and activities, you want to include also detailed instructions for all modules. I can't tell you how many, when I first taught this class, I thought it was detailed and concise, but I received so many emails from students. Hey, what do you mean by this? Or hey, and they want instant response. We're talking about the millennials. They want, they will send you an inquiry and they want a response immediately. And so you may get bombarded with emails if your assignments and your modules are not clearly detailed on the syllabus. You also want to aim for a well-sequenced course with detailed site maps, and each learning module begins with a purpose. What I mean by that is, for instance, if Module 1 is getting to know college or college one-on-one, possibly for students that have never attended college and they want to know the protocols in terms of navigating through the system, and that's just an example that I'm going to use, you want to make sure that there's a purpose behind each assignment. In the end, what is the objective? What is the student going to learn from completing this particular assignment? Okay. Those objectives, the student learning outcomes tie into those objectives as well. Distance learning courses must be designed clearly to articulate the learning objectives. What are we going to learn after this chapter? What I have done in my class is that I have objectives and SLOs, but I also have course objectives for each particular module. So when you're designing your course, that is totally up to you. You can actually have a module. You can have 3 modules, 5 modules, 6 modules, however you plan to set up your course. But it's important to make sure that you have objectives or SLOs for each module. So for instance, if the student is learning to navigate, let's say, assist.org or a transfer website or so forth, or the transfer process, you want to make sure that your learning objective states, upon completion of this actual module, what exactly are we going to learn, or what should you have learned by completing these assignments? And it must be clearly stated on the syllabus. Okay. Now, in teaching online, you must include at least one group project. How do you do that? Well, I use many forms of technology, as you'll see further down on our presentation. But the group project, I actually allow the students to go online and they interact with the other students. They get to meet the other students. We have an icebreaker, and they are responsible for creating their group. Now, initially, that was my charge. I basically divided the group up and made sure, okay, you're in group 1, you're in group 2, but I don't do that anymore. And it is so effective because they're able to be empowered to go out and seek someone and be a part of a group. And let me tell you, this past semester, no problems. Each student were able to, we had a group of 3 for the actual presentation, and there were no problems at all. The students got into groups. They actually had to email their assignments or put them in Dropbox, and they basically were able to go online, and those students who weren't so technologically savvy, they paired up with students who were, and they were able to basically submit their assignments online. These were videos, and we did video biographies and so forth, and I'll show you a little bit down the way. Okay. So the groups are required to present their projects to the class online, and we have peer review. So the peers, their peers, their classmates have to provide feedback on the group projects, and we use a rubric for that as well. The students' learning materials include a variety of learning styles. So making sure when you're developing an online class that you have students that learn differently. So how do you capture the students in the information that you're presenting to them? So again, we use a variety. We use eChat, we use Google Docs, we do blogs, we do a video portfolio through Google where the students will have that information after they've completed my class. They can keep that with them for life because it's stored in eternity and they have it, versus turning in a paper project that I store in a file cabinet that they'll never be able to see again. So I make sure that I have different types of learning materials and learning styles in the assignments that I create to make it exciting and interesting for the students. Okay. So cooperation and communication should be encouraged in the class. You'll notice that when you are teaching an online class, if you use a discussion board, which I do, we have a weekly discussion chat question. Some students kind of lean back, and just like in class, in traditional class, some students sit in the back and they really don't want to respond. It takes a while to get to that comfort level where they want to raise their hand or they want to provide feedback. Same with online students. However, the online discussion board questions that I use questions that provide critical thinking, like they'll have to think critically about the answer. I don't use questions that are yes/no questions, and I use a series of questions in my discussions. Some are fun, some are videos. I may have them critically analyze a video relating to student success or a behavioralist or existential or one of our human nature topics that we discover in class. When teaching online, you also want to begin with an icebreaker assignment for students to introduce themselves. And again, I've covered that, however, but you want to make sure that you include something, getting to know you, where the students have to discuss, excuse me, we use a, how were you different as a high school student versus a college student? And I will use that for students that are either transitioning from high school or students that are also coming in to change careers, because we know in counseling we see so many students that are coming back to school to retrain. And so for them, if that doesn't apply to them, if they're not straight out of high school, then they'll use the other one. What do I expect to learn from college now? Because they bring in a lot of information and wealth of knowledge from careers that they've had in the past. And sometimes they draw upon how they were as a student back then versus how they want to be now. Okay, connecting and engaging. We use Vocational Biography, and I have the website for you. I'll give it to you at the end of the presentation. But Vocational Biography is a great way to connect your students with industries. Okay, and again, this is an online class, so the charge for the students is to go out and they have to find a vocational biography online. And that is actually a list of careers, and it's actually videos in some cases. Well, they have to also create their own vocational biography, which means they have to go out online or in the community to find a professional in a field that they're interested in pursuing. They have to videotape the person. They have a series of questions that they ask the person, and then they upload the video and share it with the class. So students who are not familiar with, for instance, dental hygienists and what their responsibilities are, they get exposed to that because their classmate has gone out and has done the video biography for that particular career.
Yeah, I just had a question. What's the easiest way for the students to turn the videos in? Like, what format is that? Can you repeat it?
The easiest way for the students to turn in video? Well, on Telenet, which is the course management system that we use, there's a Dropbox that we use. So the students can put it in the Dropbox, because that was a great question, because some of the videos are so large and sometimes they're not able to transmit those to me. I noticed Google works good as well. Okay. I haven't had any problems with Google. Yes.
Do you suggest any format for them to use? And what about students who may not have easy access to video?
Do I suggest any format for video?
Right.
That goes back to the course responsibilities. And so during the orientation, the students are told exactly what is required of this course, including the technologies that are going to be used. Although we give them a list of technologies, students are very savvy. And so oftentimes they'll use the one that they're most comfortable with. But I noticed that we also have a chat section where the students can communicate with each other online through Telenet, and they would ask questions. Hey, how do you do this? I'm on Google and I can't figure out how to do X, Y, and Z. Can you help me? And they got in there and they helped each other. And then if I needed to interject, then I would. Yeah. Okay. Interactive discussion board. Make sure when you're creating your discussion, again, you won't open-end it. You don't want yes/no questions, because the students, yes, they're busy and they have busy lives, but there is a level of responsibility that they have to commit to this class, and so you want to make sure that they're doing the best on the assignment. And so some students may use a one-sentence discussion board answer, and that's not enough for my class. We have a rubric which tells them exactly what is considered a good discussion board answer, and we want them to think critically about how they're going to respond to the discussion board questions. So again, you can use videos as a discussion. You can use a video relating to the subject that you're teaching in that particular module and have them critically assess that video and so forth. Again, these are some of the technology-mediated resources that we use this semester. We use Skype, and some students, they loved it. My kids said, "Oh, that's awkward. You're Skyping your students." But we used it because I used it as a tool to. We had a quiz on Skype. It was a verbal quiz, and so that gave me an opportunity to see where each student stood. And prior to using Skype, through our Telenet system, we actually have pictures of all of our students. Through the ID, so I can actually visually see my students through their student ID picture. So I kind of felt like I knew them. But that was an opportunity that they had actually suggested that we use Skype. And a few of the students that had never used Skype, well, the students that had, again, they were chatting, and they gave them specific instructions. Now, I already had those printed up because I can upload those assignments to them and the instructions for Google and for Skype. I have all of that available. However, I like to let the students take the lead, and then if they have questions about not being able to get in, then I'll go ahead and respond to that. Okay. And we use Gmail, and one pitfall that I would say, the first semester that I taught this course online, I decided to use Gmail because our system was a little, it was kind of shutting down here and there, and it was problematic. And so we used Gmail, and I loved it. However, that required the students to get a separate email address, and not everyone has a Gmail. And so, they did. They went ahead and got a separate email address. However, our Telenet system is not connected to Gmail. So it was just a little bit problematic. But in the future, I love the Google Doc tools, and they're very effective for teaching an online course. So I just need to find a way to merge the two. Okay. So, educational resources. I have a list of resources available in my Telenet, and so you make sure that when you are developing an online course that your resources are in a central database. You don't want the students to have to click on multiple avenues or click on another website to get to a different website. They get lost, they get frustrated, they don't produce. So I have a list of resources available, ranging from Assist, College Board, College Source, Career Cruising, OneNet, you name it, career information, educational information, and so forth. But they're all in one area, and the students can click on the link that they're interested in learning about. And also include clear instructions for those resources, because you don't want to lose the students in the process. Okay. Strategies for effective student interaction. Communication is the key. There's student-to-student communication. In the student-to-student communication, I have created a netiquette handout for the students, uploaded to the students, because we live in an age where students are emailing and they're twittering and tweeting and chatting and so forth. And so sometimes they're not aware of how they should communicate online. You don't want to violate a student's privacy and so forth. So with that handout, that's been effective because students, they know that, no use of foul language online, that may be violating someone. Student-to-student interaction, student-to-instructor interaction, I received an email from a student, and it was actually a chat, and he called me Hoyle. Hoyle, I need my such and such back. And I thought that was right. Yeah. So I basically had to tell him, it's either Miss Hoyle or Professor Hoyle, and it was all caps and exclamation points and so forth. So it's just, you have to make sure that you educate your students up front. And when you teach online, if you're actually going to have an orientation, which I do, my students have to come in for an orientation where we talk about NETIC and we talk about the course outlines. So that way I want everything to be clear before they leave my class and venture on the online classes.
So I had a question.
Yes.
You actually meet with them the first time and then it?
I do, and that's not mandatory. Right. It's not mandatory at all. It works for me. You get to see your students, you get to add, drop, and also if they have questions about the syllabus. During that meeting, we go over the syllabus, the entire syllabus, to find out if there are any questions and so forth. But the communication and the strategies for effective student interaction is key. You have to let them know, student to student, what's expected, because occasionally they're going to comment on each other's posts if that's what you choose to do in your class. Student to instructor and also student to content. How do they absorb the information without plagiarizing? And that's where academic integrity and so forth comes into play as well. Okay. Now, it's imperative that you inform the student of your communication plan. You have to have a communication plan. What is your plan? When are you going to get back to the students? Is it going to be immediate? Is it going to be during your virtual office hours? Are you going to use the discussion board as your method of getting back to students' questions and so forth? Are you going to use e-chat? What are you going to use? So you want to make sure that you have an effective plan because that'll minimize student anxiety and frustration. And again, the Generation X students, they want immediate feedback. So if you don't indicate that on your syllabus or talk about it at your orientation, you're going to get bombarded with emails all day long. Okay. So, discussion boards. You want to find ways to engage students and assist them with their interactions. So the way that I use the discussion board and to get students to interact and engage with each other is occasionally they'll have a discussion post that they have to respond to, and then they have to choose 2 students' posts, and they have to also comment on those as well.
How often do you, during discussion boards, how often do you respond to students' discussions, or do you allow them more, or do you just kind of oversee, just kind of like you're talking about, making sure their communication is appropriate and everything? How much do you, interject?
How much time do I interject to how much time, I'm sorry?
How many times, or like how much do you respond?
How much do I respond?
Yeah, to their discussion.
To their discussion.
Yeah.
Probably about once a week.
And how many students? Do you respond to every student?
Oh, I respond to every student, or I may have a blanket response, depending on what the topic is about. If it's a personal type discussion board question, for instance, how are you different as a high school student versus a college student? Let's just use that as an example. Then each student will have a different response. So that will require me to respond individually to the student. But if it's a question regarding, human nature and the nature of human nature, then that may be a blanket response. But if a student has a question, then I make sure to go ahead and respond to that question. So it kind of varies. It varies. Okay. So again, you should post weekly discussions, but again, you want to make sure that you're able to respond to the students, and you want to also make sure that that they're getting the maximum from the discussions. So I use the discussions also during a module if there's a topic that I want the students to really be aware of. Then I may also post it. They'll have assignments, but I may also post that as a discussion question to make sure that they got it. And that's an indicator for me of whether or not I need to reteach some information to them during the semester. Okay. And again, you want to use critical thinking skills to create new topics. Okay. Best practices. You want to be creative when developing assignments. I know students will tell me, oh, you know, that class, I just had to click on this website and do the assignments, and it was just, they uploaded handouts and they didn't correspond with me. You want to make sure you've got to stay connected. Students today, they want excitement. You know, they're on Twitter and they're on Facebook and they're on MySpace and so forth. And so that's how they learn. And so if you want to stay connected with the students, again, it requires being creative. But being creative also requires constant professional development, which I love, because you're going out and you're looking for new methods of technology, new innovative type of ideas to include in your syllabus for your students. Involvement, instructor involvement in an online class, and that goes back to your question about responding to the discussion boards. Involvement equals success. As an online professor, you can't lay dormant and expect to have success in the class. And students are looking for that involvement. Academic integrity. That's a big one online. We use Turnitin.com, but I also design my assignments in modules. So Module 1, Module 2. So in order to get to Module 2, you must have understood what has gone on in Module 1. And I also use the SLOs, and I also use forms of evaluating whether or not the student has grasped the material in the first module. So by the time they get to Module 2, they should be at a certain point. And then maybe I may use Skype as an online quiz prior to going to Module 3. So in terms of academic integrity, we're not the academic integrity police, but it is very important to make sure that your students are the ones who are doing the assignments. And there are ways to do that online, and they've been effective for me. So again, the online course evaluation. I use the SLOs as a framework. So take a look. How many of you have student learning outcomes for your counseling courses or for your courses? Okay. So those are the outcomes that you want the student to have completed once they've completed your course. So that's where I begin. I use that as a framework, and that helps me design my online student evaluation. You can also look at your course objectives, and that will also help you to design that as well. And you want to make sure that your evaluation is brief, because after the class is over, pretty much the students want their grade. So you want to make sure that that online evaluation is a brief eval, but it covers all the information that you need to gather from the students. Okay. Now, vocational bios, those are the vocational biographies. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I'm going to show you a video that I used with the class, and where are we?
I think your video, you may have to click on the video. Is it on this side? Yeah, just click it.
So that's just one sample of a vocational biography. And again, the students create their own biographies and they actually upload them. And so the requirement is that a student has to view at least 3 to 5 of these, and they have to comment. And this is in our career section. So what they're doing is they're actually learning about various careers and going out into the community or online. I choose some of them. I had a student that was in a submarine, and they were taking my online class. So, some assignments wouldn't be as lucrative. He couldn't come off the submarine and go interview someone. He did it online, and he uploaded the video to me, and it was fascinating. So this is one assignment that we use that I love, and I love watching the students be creative. And again, in terms of the limitations for technology, we push them as far as they can go. If they don't have the resources and the means, but this is what they're already doing. I mean, students are going onto YouTube and they're uploading videos and so forth, and they know how to do this.
What length do you like to tell them to stick to?
I tell them stick to 3 to 5, because 3 to 5 minutes. 3 to 5.
Any other parameters that you tell them that you want to see in the video?
Yes, I do have a handout that I provide, and I can provide that to you guys if you give me your email address. But I have a list of questions that they actually have to ask the individual that they're interviewing. And then aside from that, I tell them, be creative. Don't stop here. I want you to actually inquire about more information. Just use mine as a guide.
We talked a bit about copyright and also do you require any accessibility?
Yes, all of our classes are accessible for disabled students. They're ADA compatible and so forth.
Even they make a video. Do you have any accessibility requirements for the video?
I do. We do have a list of requirements that we have from our school that have to be on all of our websites and so forth. So they are aware of that. Yes, they are. And in terms of copyright, yes, we do talk about that. We talk about that in the orientation. That's something that is discussed in the orientation. Yes. So some of the websites that have been really effective in developing this class, you can use vocationalbioonline.com, and it's just www.vocationalline.com. And next, nextvista.org. NEX, the word next, vista.org. And of course, Google. If you're not already familiar with the Google products, we use it because our students have to create a mind map activity. They also have to create a portfolio that they turn in at the end of the semester. And so many of them chose to use Google. I gave them the Google instructions, and I can forward that to you as well in terms of how to create that the assignment. And that was very effective because at the end of the semester, all of their assignments were posted in one place, including the resume and including the vocational bio. So they had an entire portfolio that they were able to take with them beyond Counseling 200. So that they can always reference, and it's free. I also use www.ocw.mit.edu. And I must say that, our students can get an MIT education without the MIT dollars because these are open content, open source materials that are available for you to use. And so that's a great website for you to search and to see if it works for you. We also teach a career portion of the counseling course, and I use www.careercruising.com. and also Career Cafe. One of my favorites is ONET Online, O-N-E-T Online. I use that one many times with students, and that is a great website for students that are coming to college and not familiar with where they want to go in terms of a career. And so this particular website will give you information in terms of, you have the MacBook there, so you can actually log on. It'll give you valuable information, and it'll also help you find the buzzwords to put on a resume. So some of our students have never had a job. And so it tells you the career that you're looking for and what some of the words to use for your resume to make your resume a little bit more appealing. And I just met recently with a young lady who hires for Target, and she said, online resumes, we only are able to give not very many minutes to online. Yeah, not very many minutes. So if you think about it, if you have an online, most companies are requiring you to submit your resume online. And if they're only giving, this amount of minutes, what do you put in it to make sure that it gets screened and goes to the next level? And so again, part of our counseling course, we have a career portion, a career module, and we use OneNet, we use career cruising, we also use several resume writing websites to assist the students as well. Okay, any questions from the audience?